We'll get started. So welcome everyone. I want to introduce Dona Ponepinto. How'd I do?
Ponepinto.
Okay, Ponepinto, there we go, close. From the United Way, and I will let her tell more about herself, but I remember going to the website and realizing as much as I thought I knew about United Way, I knew not much of anything. And Robin heard Donna speak some time ago at the Puyallup City Council meeting and was impressed there. So we thought it would be another great addition to our speaker series. So housekeeping stuff, when you are not asking a question or not talking, if you would mute yourself just so we avoid background noise. And if you feel like you want to say something, either unmute or jump in because we're a small group, or just wave and we'll be able to see. We do take a free will offering every speaker series. So far, we've raised, I think it's over $3,900 for various charities and organizations that our speakers have chosen. So tonight's, of course, will go to the United Way of Pierce County. So you can donate via our church website. There's a spot to click donate, and you can just put speaker series and it will get to the right place. Or you can just send a check to the church and put speaker series for that. So I think that's it. Robin, can you think of any other news before we start? Our next speaker won't be until April. We're off in March. And in April, we have an author and speaker and writer that is doing something about I am acting my age or something like that. She sounds wonderful. Very humorous look at aging and what that's about. So I'm very excited for that. So that comes next time. But tonight we have Donna. So Donna, go ahead and take it away. And thank you.
Great. Thank you. Well, it's good to be here. Small group. So hopefully you have lots of questions for me. I also have a PowerPoint that I'm going to run through. But looking forward to our time together. And welcome, questions that you might have about your United Way. I always say United Way is really about community and bringing community together. So just a little bit about me, Dona Ponepinto, and I'm the president and CEO of United Way Pierce County, and I've been here for 7 years. Have a long career. My career has been with United Way, 34 years with United Way. And this is my fourth United Way. So I started off my career way back when at the United Way of Greater Los Angeles, and spent almost a little over 11 years in LA with LA United Way, and then was hired on in Orange County, California, and worked with them always in the areas of community impact. So, leading the community impact work in those communities, assessing community needs, working with community partners to then determine how best to allocate, United Way dollars. So did that in Orange County as senior vice president of I don't even know what the title was, probably community impact or community building. And then was hired on in Detroit. So I went from sunny Southern California to Detroit, Michigan. And there I was a vice president of, what was my title there? I had several titles there, but I went there basically to take two United Ways that were 100-year-old organizations and really kind of turn them upside down and redo and rethink how they invested in community. So still to this day, some of my most challenging and rewarding work. And what I'm doing here is phenomenal work that I'll get into. But that was really amazing to be the architect of how that United Way actually still does look at the way that they invest in communities. So it's pretty exciting to see, after being gone for 7 years, they're still actually doing some of the work that I created. So that's always a good thing. when you can leave a legacy. And then in January of 2014, I arrived here in Tacoma. I was hired on after an extensive search, hired on as the CEO here. So, as as I think back on my career, it has always been very much about how do we help make communities better. And so, when you think about United Way, I'm not sure, since it's a small group, maybe we can I was going to have people do it in the chat. When you think about United Way, what words come to mind? You just throw out what comes to mind when you think about United Way?
Matching money. I know you can donate, and like there's many places that match.
Okay.
And services, giving services to.
I'm giving is what I was going to say.
Okay.
I was just going to say multi-services.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, I am going to now bring up my PowerPoint here. So, when you think of United Way funding, matching funds, well, this United Way of Pierce County has been around. This is our 100th year. We're going to be 100 years old May 14th. And that's, 100 years of real mobilizing the carrying power of Pierce County to tackle the community's most pressing issues in our community. Oops. Now, why? Boy, this is not, we even practiced this, didn't we? Okay. And so we have a bold goal of lifting 15,000 households out of poverty by 2028 and into self-sufficiency, one family at a time. Our United Way is also very much focused on dealing with issues of social and racial equity and making sure that as we're addressing these issues, that we're also paying attention to equity, and that it's not just about making sure that that everyone has equal access, but that there's the whole idea of having this equity mindset where we're paying attention to the disproportionate number of people of color that are oftentimes impacted by a lot of different barriers. So this, all of this work, all of that to say is that, our work and everything that we do is focused on bringing folks together to figure out what are the strategies that we need to tackle in order to move more families out of poverty. And so that has been at our core probably for almost the entire time that I've been with United Way. We kind of evolve. United Way, most people think of United Way as this organization that raises money and allocates money out to nonprofits. And that is a small piece of what we do. That is, we're always going to do that work, but we know in order to address the issues of poverty that we're not going to social service our way out of it. We could be funding, for eternity. I mean, you've got the war on poverty in the 60s. I mean, we're still fighting the war on poverty, and it's not getting any better for the families in our community. So we also know that there's a population of individuals in our communities that are always kind of teetering on the edge. And this is Alice. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Alice. I'll stop sharing for a second. Have any of you heard that term before? So it's asset limited, income constrained, employed. And these are individuals that are getting up every day, they're working, and unfortunately are probably the ones that are most greatly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So I am going to see if the video will work. Let's see if this will work. Okay, can you hear it?
Yep, we got it.
Okay. So that's Alice. And so how did we get it? And I will put in the chat box the link to our Alice report. So United Ways of the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, and Idaho commissioned a report through the United Ways of Northern New Jersey and Rutgers University to put together this report about Alice. And it's really focused on the financial hardships of those individuals that are getting up every day and working a couple, 2 to 3 jobs to try to make ends meet. So here in Pierce County, there are roughly about 100,000 plus households that are struggling, that kind of fit the Alice definition. 15,000 of those households are families with children. And so that's how we came up with the 15,000 number. It's just a point in time. And we know that if we don't address the bigger issues to deal with poverty, there's going to be 15,000 more, because that's the question we always get. So, what's going to happen? You're going to have 15,000. Won't there be 15,000 more? And there will. It's an aspiration that, we can do the kind of work collaboratively with the community so that policies and institutions change enough, and there's enough public will to move more people to a place of being not just self-sufficient, but to thrive. So that's how we, came up with the numbers, and the website actually is much more interactive this time around for the report. The numbers are based on 2018 census. And at any point during my presentation, if you have any questions, please just, let me know. So our United Way fights for Alice in 3 ways. We do that through our basic needs work, which is the funding of organizations out in the community. And right now we're funding about, I think it's about 30 organizations that we're funding. But our basic needs is really helping families and children and their families with those very critical needs. I'm of the belief that if families don't have their basic needs, then they're always going to struggle. And so making sure that they have a roof over their head, they have access, to nutritious food, that they're able to pay their bills, and even and beyond that, to be able to put money into a savings account, because we know, it's some number like 70% of Americans don't have enough money to cover an emergency. I think $500 and a savings. And so, how do you make sure that people, aren't, living that paycheck to paycheck where they can't even save money? So that's one area. Centers for Strong Families, I'll go into more detail, but we have a network of 7 organizations that is really about helping to improve the financial bottom line of individuals in our communities. And then South Sound 211, which is it's our helpline. It's more than an information and referral. I know, how many of you are familiar with 211? No one? Okay. So 211 is this amazing resource. If you need assistance, if you know someone else who needs assistance, and that's the other video I'll show in just a minute, 211 is there for anyone who is needing any kind of help. And again, I'll go through more detail in just a minute. So okay, so basic needs. Basic needs in 2019, we're compiling the 2020. We're on a January to December. So donors with their investment help to support more than 112,000 people with essential things that they need as part of that social safety net. And we know the safety net is very fragile. And we know last year in particular, organizations really struggled to be able to provide the kind of supports that that families needed in a time where we needed to stay home. We needed to, really kind of all self-isolate ourselves so that we would not be, not contract COVID-19. Then there's the 211, as I mentioned, 90,000 contacts in 2019. And you can call, you can email, but it's connecting people to a trained specialist so that they're getting matched with the right kinds of services. We have what's called navigators, and these navigators help people get connected to workforce development and employment services, transportation. We have a relationship with United Way Worldwide and Lyft. So our call specialists can actually get into the Lyft system and get people connected to rides to and from work during COVID-19. We were able to do that outside of the city of Tacoma and be able to get people connected to medical appointments, groceries, also to jobs. And we're looking to see how we can expand that. And then housing. We've actually housed over 120 some odd people over the last 2 years, 211, in working hand in hand with someone who is on the brink of losing their housing, and also working with the folks at the Associated Ministries or Tacoma Rescue Mission or other organizations that are working to ensure people have either shelter or getting them into some kind of housing. Before we go to the Center for Strong Family, I'm going to show you the 211 video, because I think this really does speak. It gives you a deeper insight that it's not just call and we're going to give you a bunch of numbers. Yes, that happens, because some people just want numbers, or they want a text to get that information, but other people need more time with the call specialist and more in-depth assistance in terms of helping people access and navigate. One of the things that we hear time and time again from the community is that people just don't know, they just don't know what the services are. They don't know how to access the services. I mean, if you think about, a situation yourself where, all right, you've called in for a number because you want help, and then you've got to dial, you've got to wait for the menu to then dial a number, and it's like, when am I going to get a person, right? It's amazing how many times that has happened to me. It's like, I just want to talk to someone for a second. I don't want to go through this series. So, 211 really is that place where, most call centers, they're tracking how fast you can get off of a call with someone. We actually sometimes get dinged because we're spending more time with people to really help them get connected to the right kind of service.
211 is our information and referral call center, but it's so much more.
We're a helpline to help people navigate existing programs and services.
It's an emergency line for basic needs. Okay, you're looking for some housing resources, and what's zip code? We connect you to resources in your community. So when you call 211, you'll get someone like me who tells you it's okay, calm down, we'll work through it, and we'll figure out the best resource for you based off of where you live and what services you need. You said you slept in your car last night? Well, we do have
Most of those calls, again, come in starting out for needs like rent assistance, housing, emergency shelter, transportation, employment, a lot of calls for food or food benefits.
They need help in navigating.
And it needs to be as simple as possible, because when you're in a stressful situation, that's, you don't want to sit down and deal with the complexities of how you find the help. When folks call in with presenting one need, our specialists are able to dig a little deeper, find out more about what multiple issues are happening.
We take the time to talk to you because it makes you human. It puts back human in human services. And how long ago did that occur? 2 days ago? Okay. It's okay. Everything is going to be fine. You've called the right place. Don't worry. Maybe you called for that utility assistance, but as you're talking to me, you're telling me my kids are hungry, and I'm able to give you more resources than what you could even think about.
And again, we're doing that every day. We're doing that on every call.
Let's go ahead and look up some shelters for you.
We get check-ins from folks a lot that, say, I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there to listen when I was in such distress. And I want to let you know that, I have a good paying job now. So those types of stories make a big difference too.
It's my job to uplift other people. It's our human nature and what we're supposed to do. And I get to do that every day.
So I hope that gives you a better sense of, what 211 does in our community.
I'm appalled that I did not know about 211. I mean, I'm a teacher. I was in public education for 30 years.
Mhm.
I'm at a private school now, but I have kids in crisis all the time. And gosh, I can't believe I did not know about this.
Yeah, it's a tremendous resource. What I can do is we actually have a flyer that I can get to you that has all the different 211 resources, and all this information is also on our website. So I've got to write down the different links I'm going to get to you: the Alice link and then the 211.
Donna, does King County have 211 also, or is it just Pierce?
No, King County does. There's 7 call centers throughout the state. Now, we're the only United Way that kind of owns and operates the 211 in Pierce County. In King County, it's another agency.
But it's the same type of
Yeah.
resource.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
Yeah. Yes.
So, thank you. On the 211 you said there's 7 different agencies. Is it based on your cell phone, your location? So you'll get if I'm
Yeah.
calling from Puyallup, I'll automatically go to Pierce County.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Just like 911.
right. And
Okay.
now, yes, you will. So
Thank
it
you.
doesn't matter where you are, you're going to get connected to that 211 in your community. That covers that area. The other thing is too, during COVID, all the call centers, we were contracted with the state Department of Health that was getting all the COVID-19 phone calls. So, they were getting thousands and thousands and thousands of calls. And we saw a 50% increase in our 211, so not only people calling just because they needed help with rent or some other type of assistance, but also getting the calls from COVID, that people had questions about COVID-19. So every time there was a major announcement, for instance, that the governor, made some type of major announcement, the call volume would go up. And so what the State Department of Health was doing was parceling out those calls throughout the 7 call centers. During the months, I think it was March to June, we had a jump in about 25,000 calls just in that short period of time. That the slide said 90,000 calls. We get 90,000 contacts a year in 211. About 35 to 40,000 of those are phone calls. So just in a short amount of time last year, we had almost had as many calls in that period of time as we have for the entire year. Just the other week, with all the stuff with the vaccinations, one day there were 6,000 calls in the queue to be distributed to 7 call centers. So it's and they're basically my team has been working on call from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night since March of last year. They can work remotely. Thank goodness. There's a couple people I think still come into the office just because they choose to. But all 211 call operators are set up to work remotely. The challenge though in that, when you're a person that is taking calls from people who are in crisis, to be in your home alone, I worry about my team. Let's just put it like that. I worry, when they're in the office, they have that connection. You know, they have a quiet room that they can, you know, go to take a break. They have, you know, other staff that are there that they can, you know, talk with. But you know, I don't know about you. I couldn't do that. I could not spend, you know, 8 hours of my day taking one crisis call after another. I mean, you heard on the video, Janae, who's been with us. She's our navigator that focuses primarily on workforce development and employment. But, you know, the stories that she can tell in terms of people really struggling and her being able to help them get connected to the right employment agency, get connected to childcare, all of those things. So it's they're a pretty amazing group of staff. And then the next thing that we do to help families is around our Centers for Strong Families. So that I mentioned before the video, 7 centers, looking at really how you improve the financial bottom line of families in Pierce County. And it's all done, you know, this is about a hand up and not a hand out. In fact, all the work that we do, I am very much a believer in, you know, looking at people's strengths and not their deficits, because I believe and I know United Ways used to always look at deficits. You know, well, you know, this is what people need, and yes, to some degree we have to focus in on that. But what we try to do when we're making investments in community is to really focus on those approaches that are about giving people a hand up. And that's what our Centers for Strong Families is really all about, because it's about coaching. The 7 organizations, you know, Sound Outreach, Goodwill, Tacoma Housing Authority, Bethel School District is one of our sites. We're looking at how we can work with Sumner and their Family Support Center to see how we can do something in Sumner. Tacoma Community House. Seems like I'm missing someone, but you know, they're throughout the county, and we want to make sure that we're throughout the county. But they have financial coaches and employment coaches that are really working with their clients to help give them the tools that they need so that they can be successful. You know, it's not just about doing a budget. It's not just about getting a job. You can have a job, and as we know, I mean, people can have jobs and not be financially stable, not know how to manage their funds, not realize and understand that, you know what, the better your credit score, you're going to have access to better credit, interest rates, all of those things. So that's kind of what the Centers for Strong Families does. And I'm going to show you the dashboard. So this is our dashboard, and this is another link that's on our website, but it gives you a really good sense of what the results. And we update this. This is updated 2/25. So it was just updated today. You know, shows you, you know, how many people are enrolled in some kind of education training, what's the completion rate, the employment, how many people are placed in a new job since enrolling. And then we look at the average wage. And this is not a cumulative. This is the just since the last time that we updated, which was in January, $20 an hour, average minimum monthly increase in income. Benefits, how many people access those benefits while they're trying to become more self-sufficient. And then the financial, you know, you'll see total debt decrease 0. Well, you know what, during the pandemic, people weren't necessarily able to decrease their debt because all of their income was going into just trying to keep a roof over their head and put food on the table. But what we will see over here in the credit is average scores increasing 51 points. So the average credit score, this is great. It's going up 626 points. So again, this is a national model, evidence-based. Our centers are part of a network of financial opportunity centers across the country. We can compare ourselves to, cities like Des Moines, Detroit, Los Angeles, Houston, San Diego, and then other comparable cities to areas to Pierce County. One of the things that we look at that is 92% of the clients receive bundled services. And this is really key because that means this model is working. The more that people bundle their services, 5 to 6 more times likely to increase income, decrease debt, and improve credit scores. And 1,500 people have been served to date since 2016. So we pay attention to, and we have a manager on our staff that works with these agencies and works with their teams to help provide the trainings, to help, we provide trainings. We can tell you, the race and ethnicity, of clients, how many times, 5 or more times the people connect with their coaches, which is really important to look at. And then the other piece of this is making sure that the staff at the agencies get the kind of training that they need. So providing them training on how to collect the data, training on how to be a certified career coach and a certified financial coach. And what that does is it's helping skill them up too. And unfortunately, what it does is they go on to different and more higher paying jobs, which, you want that to happen, but you also want to try to build in incentives that they stay with this extra training at the various sites. So it's pretty cool the work that we're doing with our Centers for Strong Families. And then one of the things that we have seen in terms of lifting people out of poverty, since 2017, when we started collecting most of our data, 2,900 households have been moved from poverty to self-sufficiency, which, I feel, sometimes you think, oh, that's not a big number, when you've got over 100,000 people that are struggling every day, but it's a start. And again, we know we do other things along with helping people through Centers for Strong Families and Basic Needs, then we'll have a better chance to see that number overall grow. This is just United Way's work. It doesn't include all the other partnerships that we're a part of. We're trying to figure out ways to collect that data. So with COVID-19 and what we have done with COVID-19 is some highlights, because United Way didn't stop. We went remote March 13th, I think it was, and we haven't stopped. We partnered with the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation to establish the Pierce County Connected Fund, which raised, this needs to be updated, $7.6 million. We've allocated $7.6 million, and looking at how we're now working on a strategy around a 10-year racial equity. And I forget the name that we've come up with for it, but working with Greater Tacoma Community Foundation to do this. Distributed masks, 5,000 masks to the Pierce County Health Department, and then 2,400 masks to nonprofit. We were also a part of the not Attorney General, I can't think of, well, we were part of a statewide, I can't think of the name of the area, statewide mask initiative, where, we help to get additional masks distributed. Diapers. When you think about a crisis like this and people are out of work, and the things that are those expenses, diapers, huge. And so working with the First Five Fundamentals and other nonprofit organizations, making sure that we got diapers to families. And then volunteers, during COVID, we also had to make sure that people were safe if they wanted to volunteer. So connecting people to different kinds of volunteers, but also having virtual volunteer activities for individuals, for families, and for companies that were looking to do something to support the community. Advocacy and partnerships. This is becoming more and more a big part of what we do. advocacy. And, when you think about advocacy, some people go, well, nonprofits can't advocate. Yeah, we can. We can advocate. Most nonprofits are never going to spend the amount of money that you need to spend where you're going to be in violation of your 501c3. And if you're an agency that is all about advocacy, then you've got a different designation. But we're really about educating our legislators, educating the community on these issues around poverty and the Alice families. There's so many things that people just don't know because, sometimes, and I'll use, sometimes we might live in a bubble, where we're focused on taking care of ourselves and our families and not realizing that, there's a lot of families out there that are struggling. And so the legislative session is in now. We had 20 visits to legislative visits to our legislators, talking about Alice, talking about, that we see affordable housing being important, access to food, looking at childcare issues, all of those things we advocate for not only during the legislative session, but throughout the year. And we couldn't do any of this work without partnerships. We couldn't do any of this work without volunteers. And so all of these things are really important to the work that we do. And then just lastly, from Poverty Possibilities, we have, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with our annual event from Poverty Possibilities. This was our 4th year, the first time we did it virtually. And every year we focus on a different theme around breaking the cycle of poverty. And this past November, we focused on looking at disrupting poverty through the intersections of equity, through the intersections of race or trauma, equity, and community resilience. Because one of the things that we're learning, and it really makes sense once you think about it, that if we want to build resilient individuals, you have to have a community that has the supports necessary to build those resilient individuals. So you have to have communities that are resilient and that want to be resilient. And we just finished up. We worked with University of Washington Tacoma to create, to do a workshop around looking at creating various prototypes, and really thinking outside the box and imagining how might we do this work? How might we, look at the work through an equity lens? We don't realize the trauma that I think probably we have all in some way faced. I mean, last year alone, having to work from my desk at home, going into the office every, once a week was okay. But for like the first 3 months, I went to the office to drop off food for 211 because we had more staff in the office. And Saturdays, when no one was there, I'd go and drop off snacks for them. But other than that, I wasn't in the office. And so even that is, trauma. It's like, I'm done. I don't know about you, for those of you that, are still working outside the home and, go to offices, I'm ready to be out of this. Realizing that people are impacted by the trauma of COVID-19, the trauma of loss, the trauma that was inflicted with all of the racial injustices that have been going on for centuries. But, this past year, I think this deep heightening awareness that we have to pay attention, to these issues and the impact on people of color every day that have to experience and see this every day. So this event really helps. It's a time for the community to come together to have these conversations. And we had about 400 people that participated, which was fantastic. and breaking out into breakout groups, listening to speakers talk about their experiences, but also the things that we can do as a community and as a county. So, and all of this to say is that United Way is it probably sounds like we're doing a lot, but our focus is always on, those individuals with that lived experience and making sure that the work that we're doing in partnership with so many is truly about this idea of common good. And making sure that everyone has the opportunity to live a fruitful and productive life and have access to the supports they need, and truly move people to a place where we can break this cycle of poverty. So with that, I will stop and see if anyone has any questions.
I was wondering if you get state and federal dollars to match the funds at United Way.
So we apply for grants. So we don't automatically get any state and federal dollars. We do, the city of Tacoma, we get some funding for 211. The Washington 211, in fact, that's what we're advocating for right now. We get money. Money is in the operating budget to support the infrastructure of the 211 call system. That's the database and the use of the 211 call line. But every 211, we have to raise money. I would say 95% of my 211 staff is grant funded. And so we have to seek out, there's a lot of generous local foundations that help support our work. But yeah, we could not do our 211 to the extent that we do it with these navigators without grants. We do get some federal grants for it's federal grant money through the state to support some of our transportation work. And then we get some money through Workforce Central because we're part of a common referral system. So our 211 is the common referral that links prospective job seekers to the appropriate Workforce Central provider to get services.
And then my second question then has to do with the 211, with the crises that we're under right now with the pandemic. Have you been allowed to increase your staff for the 201 operators?
Yes, we've had to. It's doubled.
It's doubled, okay.
Yeah, it's doubled. I mean, I have, 211 went from like maybe 8 staff, and work study students and part-time students to I think about 19 211 staff now. So it is definitely, now some of those I think are part-time, but it's still much larger. Yeah. Capacity is an issue. Capacity is definitely an issue.
This is probably too big of a question, but I'm just trying to imagine the impact that the school closures had, because schools, the hot lunch program went away, and yes, families could go pick up hot lunches, or some buses were delivering lunches, but childcare,
Yeah.
I just can't even imagine the impact that had on you guys, because schools do offer some resources, and that they're scrambling to do that. I know.
Yeah, they really are. It's working with like First 5 Fundamentals, because we have these parent navigators, but also through the Pierce County Connected, we were able to provide funding to collaboratives of organizations that were working with school districts, working with individuals to get people connected to childcare services. The big thing about that with the schools was the technology issue.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
broadband, even if you're a family that has access to, a high level, the highest, whatever it is, of broadband, if you're working from home and your kids are streaming, it doesn't matter, that cuts across also, the impact of that cuts across all socioeconomic levels. So if you're a family that isn't able to afford, the broadband, then what are you going to do? People were going, we were funding the fire department in Key Pen, to have broadband access in their parking lot, so that people could go to the into the parking lot. The colleges, the same with like some of the community colleges. So the broadband and the technology issue was huge.
Wow. Yeah. And do you work directly with Bethel, or is that someone else in your department?
It's someone on my team. They are, they're a Center for Strong Families, and so we do. The person who I've hired on to oversee the Centers for Strong Families is the person that works with Bethel. Sound Outreach is the provider
Yeah. Okay.
of the employment coaches and the financial coaches. So we kind of contract with them, so they have full-time staff that are there at the Family Support Center in Bethel.
Yep. Cool.
So I'm sending you the Alice information there, and it's an interactive online tool that you would just put in Pierce County, and and then you would get it, because it's for all of Washington State, but you can put in Pierce County to get Pierce County specific information. Other questions? These are good questions.
I don't have a question, and I may be totally naive, but my impression is that years ago, nonprofits like United Way pretty much did their own thing in their own way. And what I'm hearing you say, I am very happy about, and that's collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's really essential. And I could be wrong, but I don't get the feeling that that was done as much as it is now.
yeah, it's, I'm a big believer in collaboration. United Ways, sometimes, and I can say this because I've been with United Way a very long time, but United Ways, sometimes we go into a room and we take up a lot of space, instead of saying, you know what, hey, we want everyone to be a part of this space. And so I've really just made it, a focus really early on in my career, is that, if we're going to do this work, we need partners to do it. We, the Community Foundation and United Way, we work together a lot. And in some communities, they're seen as competitors. There's some of my colleagues that don't have the kind of relationship that they have with the Community Foundation. And Kathy Lippman and I really see how what she brings to the table, what I can bring to the table as United Way, and we work together to figure it out. When you think about, we're working with the mayor in Tacoma right now around this mayor's guaranteed income, this basic income demonstration project that we're going to be working with. We've got all kinds of partners around the table. We've got, the mayor's guaranteed income is a group of 25 mayors from across, the country that are involved in this effort and doing various demonstration projects in their communities. So, yeah, I mean, United Way couldn't do that on its own. Workforce Central is a really, 211 has great partnerships. I mean, I would say almost none of the work that is going on in 211 could be done without, working with partners. So yeah, really proud of the fact that we make it a point to say who else needs to be at this table with us, and not take credit. I every once in a while, my staff will, someone will say something and it's like, well, how are we going to get, they won't say it like this, but basically, how do we get credit for this? And I always say, when you partner and you partner in the right way, we'll get the credit, and so will everybody else. It's when you don't partner and try to take the credit that you run into the problems. So
Do
It-
you guys
it's a
work with
shame.
Nourish?
I was just gonna say, it's a shame that it hasn't always been that way. And I heard what you said about competition, and that makes me sad, that because the bigger the front line or the united front,
mhm.
the bigger the gain, I would think.
Yeah. And we've seen it. Look at the Pierce County Connected. Kathy could have probably done her own thing to raise money. United Way could have done their, our own thing. But we knew that we were going to be better together. And we knew that between our two organizations, we could pull all of philanthropy together. If you go onto the GTC, well, you could even go onto our website too. But it lists all of these philanthropists, all these family foundations. We were much more powerful doing that together, as opposed to United Way going off and doing its own thing. And I can remember, again, I love my staff, but they're like, well, wait a minute, who's, is the money going to come through us or GTCF? And I'm like, who cares? As long as the money is going to get out into the community to help these organizations help people, because they need help right now,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you partner
Amazing.
with Nourish Pierce County at all?
Absolutely. I love Sue.
Sue was one of our speakers, 2-3 months ago?
Okay, yeah, Sue is part of we have what's called a Hunger Free Pierce County, and she's a part of that collaboration. And when the pandemic, it was just kind of started, and the food banks really needed assistance. We met with the food banks. We, as my staff, met with the food banks on every Monday for probably 4 or 5 months. What are the issues? What are the needs that, and so we were able to communicate that very quickly and get significant dollars out to them without them having to fill out a bunch of paperwork.
That's awesome.
And so definitely, and Sue, through our partnerships, we were able to get them. They have a refrigerated van, actually 2, I think they have.
My husband drives them.
Okay.
He's a volunteer, so
okay.
he's their substitute drivers. They're pretty cool.
Well, great. Yeah. So
They're
we've
pretty
been able
cool.
to do that.
Yeah, those trucks are awesome.
Yeah. And we were happy to be able to provide those to the community. I think there's 5 of them. Every once in a while, I'll see one. I'm like, oh, there's one of our the vans.
Pretty amazing service. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Donna,
So-
thank you so much. Does anyone else have a question? Or I wish we had a bigger group, but this group has big hearts, and I know we will help get the word out there, and I've certainly learned a lot. So thank you. Reminder to everyone that there's a free will offering. So either go to our website or use your Give app, so we can support Donna's work and work throughout the state and the county. So.
And I'm putting the link to the 211 information. So you've got all these different links to things, and spread the word on the 211. Well, great.
Awesome.
Well, it was nice talking with all of you. So
Thank you for your
thank you.
time.
You're
and,
welcome.
We will
You're welcome.
be in touch.
All
Thank
right,
you,
great.
everyone.
Here.
Okay.
Good night. Thank
Night.
you. Bye-bye.